we are starting to definitely see it creep up. And even when we start talking about being paid and organic, like the C-suite cares about revenue. They care about price times quantity. They care about contribution margin. They care about, there's a cost to paid ads. There's a cost to SEO, the time or the expertise that's going into it, and it needs to back into an outcome. And so I think we're in a disruptive space, but it's a big opportunity. It's a big opportunity to get some new stuff on.
On this PPC SEO thing, and I'd love to get your perspective here, because this is one that I think has happened a lot, whether you're in an agency or in-house. This conversation happens a lot, which is like, hey, we're gonna use paid to figure out how to get conversions, and then we'll do that stuff in SEO later. But like right now the conversation is, how do you do LLM? And maybe that's SEO, maybe that's paid, but what's that conversation look like for you?
I'd flip it. Like, the paid is easy, and I don't mean to say it in a weird way, but paid is a fast way to get revenue. I think what we are starting to do, which is interesting, is really using paid to understand what questions people are asking. Looking at the data in interesting ways. What are the questions? What are the search terms that are coming in, and then building that content on our client's homepage. We're trying to find and put that stuff on our own page so that they can start to show up more in LLM. So it's not necessarily what we do, it's like how can we use the data in interesting ways, start to flip, get more coverage in these areas where my clients are trying to not getting that coverage now. But kind of what I was saying before, from a CFO perspective, it all comes down to cost, time, and revenue. And you're going to be put up against that. And so if SEO or AEO is not going to be able to deliver an outcome like paid can, you're going to have to fight that battle, or at least have a strategic discussion with the executive on why you want to go that route, which is valid, and that's just a discussion that needs to be made. But paid, if done right, is done profitable, it's done in real time, and has the clear way with executives because they can prove profitability. If you can't do that, then you're open to do other areas, but I think paid has the green light ahead because they can prove profitability very fast, very easily. That being said, the two groups should need to be working together, not arguing. It's about growing the pie. We're all on the same team. It's growing the pie, not splitting it between SEO and PPC. It's like, hey, how much money did we make yesterday? Where did it come from? And do we know why this happened? I think that's the key part. Why did this happen to company paid? Or did it come from some crazy AEO tool that you put on the site last week, or did someone launch a CTV campaign last week that drove all those mentions? I don't know. Like, we need to put it together, have a holistic view on it, and I just think that there's a lot of hype on this space right now, but not really sure what it's actually doing, despite what I said earlier that I haven't seen creep up. It's definitely creeping up.
It is creeping up. I think just to close this piece up, like I think fundamentally we have a third cousin named Sam Altman, and like that cousin is not going away, but it's also not the dominant traffic and revenue source that people are looking at. So it is becoming a third player in the race. It is PPC, SEO, and LLM as a source, and that's kind of the transformation that we're seeing in the industry.
One other thing though, next question, just for the C-suite, like when Facebook search came out, when TikTok came out, when Instagram came out, like every single executive and every single time one of these platforms comes out and comes to their marketing team's desk, slams their hand, we need an Instagram strategy. And I feel like that is what's happening right now with LLMs. It's like, we need an LLM strategy. And then the LLM team goes and does some great stuff, but it's not really talking to the business. And if it's growing, or you're focusing on ranking, or you're focusing on getting it listed in ChatGPT when you don't care about contribution margin or revenue growing. So like, as a group, SEO and PPC is one unit, two different teams, doing two different things. But like, think like an executive and think like an owner, and then you won't have this problem.
So I just wanted to bring up, you mentioned that, this is the big conversation with how AI is changing things, and that we're only seeing, like 1% of traffic being from LLMs. You're saying that it's creeping up. Has that changed anything at all in reporting? Are you showing that 1% just because a client wants to see it? Is there any new data sources that you're using and it's showing?
I can kick off.
Sure.
I think this is like one of the most like controversial pieces of what's happening in organic discovery right now, and that's that all of us are being lied to. So we're all just getting a big fat lie, and that is LLM visibility is the new source of knowledge and reality. But there's a huge misnomer around this concept. And history is a great indicator of how things are going to progress for us when it comes to LLM data knowledge. So let's go back in time a bit to 2000. 2000, Google is starting to build up their ad platform and technology. Between 2000 and 2005, they developed some adoption around their ad platform, and from 2005 to 2010, there was mass adoption globally from small to enterprise businesses in utilizing paid ads as a form of traffic and revenue growth for businesses. Okay? In that journey of 10 years, there were explicit and implicit transfers of data that allowed advertisers to make good decisions around search, broadly.
And other channels.
And other channels, that's true. Actually, it's very true. Like, it became a bedrock of what's happening on the internet. And during that same time, there are countless platforms that came out, from SEMrush, Ahrefs, my former employer, Searchmetrics. There were a variety of different tools and technologies that came out to tell us and inform us of how to do search marketing. That doesn't exist today for LLM traffic. There is no advertising platform in ChatGPT. Perplexity has some joker product that they're trying to launch in the market. No offense, but it just is. So there's no mass adoption, and there's no explicit and implicit data transfer to advertisers who invest in these platforms. I'll give you a quick story. This might be a very long segment, and I apologize, but I'll give you a quick story. We worked with a client who was one of the first adopters of Agentic Commerce Protocol that just came out about 2 weeks ago. It was launched by ChatGPT and Stripe and a variety of other commerce players. Phenomenal idea on how to transfer data from your e-commerce platform into these LLMs. And this multi-billion-dollar enterprise spent millions of dollars in engineering resources, PR, branding, and all kinds of nonsense to launch Agentic Commerce Protocol. In the first 48 hours, they had 2 sales.
That's exactly.
A real winner of an investment. Now their stock price went up by a lot, but they had 2 sales. Because consumers aren't necessarily there yet when it comes to utilizing LLMs to go through their shopping discovery. They're still using Google. There's a reason why the product carousel at the top of the search works, because it makes sense. And so the reality is that there's some massive misnomers in how we use this data. And if you go into any of these supposed, miracle workers, mystical, magical platforms that tell you what's happening into all these LLMs and tell you about the visibility, it's just a bunch of crap put in and crap put out, right? Like, it's not real stuff, because the prompts that you're selecting are your choice. But is that really what consumers are looking for? Is that really what your customers are searching? Now, I'm not saying that everything that comes out of these platforms is garbage, but the reality is that it's not a true value proposition in terms of yielding monetary output, right? Like, when I was at Searchmetrics, or even many of you that use Ahrefs or SEMrush or any of these platforms, you generally use the data that you have out of that to make clear decisions on your website. Invest in some content, improve your pages, change your solution pages or your product pages, or reinvest in some sort of section of your site, or your blog has been getting tanked for the last 6 months, so I'm going to overhaul the whole thing. There's something that's truly actionable and useful that then turns into yield, results, value. And so, to answer your question, Celeste, like, there is a friction in the market right now, which I think actually starts with what you shared earlier, which is these executives want an LLM plan, but the plan today is on really shaky ground, because the data you're absorbing doesn't truly tell you how to make more money.
And just know that the executives have said that before. Every time one of these things comes out, I do think ChatGPT will be significant. I do, and LLMs, I think it, but there's no saying that it's not the next Pinterest, like from an impact to an advertiser's perspective, or to an impact to a business perspective, works, the next CTV, like how big is the channel? I don't know. Like, I think that's part of what our job is to help our clients quantify that, put the right items in that basket, to measure it, test stuff fast, and use the right technical expertise to measure the impact. Another thing that's interesting that you brought up that I think is worth exploring is like, as the formats change, the metrics that we look at also will change, right? It's like AEO versus LLM. That's the wording of it, but AEO, answer repetition. Like, a lot of times there's no place there. So like, you gotta be looking at direct traffic, not only just brand, like, there's like different stuff that we need to be looking at as, again, as a group. Was it you that drove that, or was it CTV that drove the spike in direct traffic? What was the channel that drove that, so we can actually understand what the impact is and double down? Because I think a lot of it's unknown. There's a lot of like questions on like, is this working, is this not? Local business got a bunch of traffic from it, but we don't know if that's what caused it.
Yeah, don't disagree. I think we've spent a lot of time in the SEO war room talking about what is direct traffic lately, or what is null traffic lately. So that's been a mystery meeting.
But even, sorry, just to off for us, even if your null traffic spikes like crazy year over year, you did nothing else besides your L11 SEO activity, it's a good data point.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good data point. It's not like perfect to the executive, but it's a good data point.
Since we kind of touched on it, with like the hype of the tools and putting in the prompt that you want to track, is there anything else specifically that you want to share that you feel is just kind of hype and not how people are representing? People are talking about like, oh, I did this, and I see all this element traffic now, and now I have, these results. Like, do you feel like any of it is just hype and kind of lies, and like not actually anything that's like measurable, trackable, anything different from SEO? Is it something entirely different yet?
I think there's a couple things. I think there's one of them is LLM visibility is about as mystery meat as it comes. LLM search volume, or what they call discovery volume, or whatever volume coin that they want to use, is one of the most unfounded metrics that I've ever seen in any platform. And I think that the one that really gets me is that there's a very huge distant connection to true KPIs that are happening on sites.
Yes.
At the end of the day, I'm not here to argue that LLM traffic is useless. I'm here to argue that it is useful, but to what impact, right? And if you're measuring your LLM traffic in a way that is not directional to your business KPIs, you're missing the whole point.
You're not going to please the executives.
You're not going to please executives, you're not going to please your own customers, because you're not going to be able to repeat the things that you want to do, right? Like, you're not going to repeat the types of content, the types of experiences, the maybe multimodal elements that are actually driving that awareness through an LLM. And I think that's what's missing right now is, to answer that question, I think there's a multitude of factors that we're looking at right now that don't actually come back to true, genuine customer or business outputs. And I think that's what I would like to spend more time on. Like, why are we going back to engagement metrics on pages? And why don't we look at traffic from LLMs that drive high engagement percentage? Because there's probably something that's really good on that page that we should repeat. That to me sounds like a more useful KPI than the supposed search volume from ChatGPT for accounting software. That doesn't seem to make a ton of sense.
Do you think that the traffic will become more valuable over time?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I just don't think it's there yet. I think the question is what's the tipping point for that? What's the tipping point for measuring those kind of leading metrics? And how much money do I want to spend in that? Because I'm asking CMOs, if you're spending $60, $80, $100,000 a year to try to understand that LLM play, a year from now, and a year from now it's still 1% to 2% of your traffic, boy, I don't know any CMOs that spend $60, $80, or $100,000 on a tool that drives 1% of your traffic. I have not found that before. Now, again, it's going to grow, but to what magnitude, I think is still very unknown.
I can both agree. I can both agree. No comments. Completely agree. No, I completely agree.
You don't have to
I
agree
know we're
with
not
Jerry.
supposed to, but I completely agree. No comments.
Since you brought up the future, then, do you have any future predictions, anything on the paid side, anything? I mean, you said key metrics likely change as things happen. Do you have any predictions?
Foundational metrics don't change. Businesses care about price times quantity, contribution margin, what's making profit. What do I think is going to change in 5 years from now? I think ChatGPT and traffic will be much bigger than what it is now. I don't know what that will be, but I think it will be much bigger than what it is now. I also think other channels will continue to grow as well. I think CTV is a great channel that's taking a ton of share from TV. Like there's a similar transformation going on in that industry as well that should be discussed. Could be brought up in this same kind of game. In the next 5 years, I think this could be a very transformative channel, but I would not put all your eggs in the basket because you don't know how much it's going to change. You don't know what impact it's going to have, but don't let it sit. You know, like CTV, ChatGPT, and LLMs are definitely two of the biggest growth areas I see in the next 5 years.
Do you want to explain more about CTV for the SEO too?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, in general, raise of hands, we know the difference between CTV and regular TV. No. CTV is connected TV. There's also OTT, which is like just anything outside of cable, essentially. So if you watch Netflix or you watch Amazon Prime, historically, if you wanted to serve ads on TV, you had to go through an agency and literally like Mad Men style buy the West Coast on California, and that's how you serve TV ads. You can now go on CTV, Netflix, Amazon, buy media like you do on Meta, on digital, on Google, and serve ads on CTV the same exact way that we do on social. And so it's like, again, like it's not just ADO that's changing. That industry is also changing, and we could also launch ads from paid from there too, and that might also drive the direct traffic increase. So that's why like, when we're looking at the metrics, it's not two different teams. Two different teams need to operate independently, hit their targets. The target for the business is the same goal: making money, making profit, making your customers happy. And whatever channel achieves those outcomes is worth the time and intellectual curiosity to get there.
I think that's one of the cool things that you're bringing up, Jerry, is that like we as SEOs and content marketers have foundationally thought about our ecosystem as like the website, the content that we publish, the blogs that we work on. But the reality is that there's this new world of opportunity, especially if organic discovery is going to come from LLMs, that is going to be from your YouTube channel, from CCTV, from some kind of unique social campaign that just happened to go viral on TikTok, but then that generates this organic stream of traffic from a ChatGPT or from AI mode in Google or Gemini experience. And I think that that's where the opportunity lies for us as SEOs in the next 12 to 24 months, is to figure out how you build that kind of campaign that generates awareness to create organic traffic, right? So like, if we can create and launch a CCTV campaign in Jerry's example, or if we can create and launch a TikTok campaign, historically we just left that to the social team. Historically we just left that to the media team. And we just went off and optimized keywords and plowed our blog with another 30 blog posts and called it a day, right? But now that has to completely change. The campaign and the strategy behind that has to totally change into an entire cluster of how we rally behind that CCTV campaign or that TikTok campaign. Because we know that there's going to be LLM-based or some sort of prompt-based request that we have to capitalize on. And like my favorite example of this today is like software companies struggle with this a ton right now. Software companies are the worst at figuring out how to communicate to their customers about their pricing, right? You go to every software company's page, it's the same shit, right? It's 3 pillars. It says, it's kind of free or free. You're gonna pay some money and call my fucking sales guy. That's literally the pillars. It's the same shit. Every software company, right? And guess what LLMs process that as? Trash. I have no clue what that fucking means. And so what they do is, they go to all of these third-party platforms like G2, or they go to like Gartner, or these other industry-leading software review sites to process content about your pricing strategy as a software. And then they try to interpret what is kind of free, what you pay for a little bit, and what calling your salespeople is like. But when the LLM responds, it's total garbage. It's like a straight up lie. Because none of these companies actually publish what it really costs to use their software. And there's some value in just being honest on the internet. And no software company is, because they want you to call their sales guy, and somehow, hopefully, magically, their sales guy is just going to trick you into spending billions of dollars. That never happens. So, like, honestly, there's a path. There's a real path for the web to be better when it comes to software companies, and we've seen this over and over again with our software clients, where like you go into an LLM, you type in the name of the company, and you type in whatever pricing type question, and the prompt response is so off base, it's just terrifying. And their CMOs go, yeah, that's not true. We would actually never sell it at that price, or it is not, the unit economics of how we sell is not by seats, it's actually by utilization. Or it's not by downloads, it's actually by how many requests you make. Like, there's all these different pricing models, but being transparent about that pays tons of dividend on your own site, because you're the most authoritative site about your own pricing. And so if they're learning and training of all these other third parties, you're losing the opportunity to clearly articulate what your pricing model is. So that's just one example of like how it can be better at ensuring that the narrative is clear.
Collaboration, then you brought up like TikTok, that we lead those campaigns and whatever. How, I guess, would your approach be of starting to work with those teams, those social teams, or starting to work with PPC, or on the other side of it, how would you start working with SEO?
I think it starts with reporting, putting everything in one place, understanding cross-channel impact, and trying to be able to repeat your actions. If SEO or target, right? If AEO, SEO, all this stuff is making that impact, repeat it. I'm all for it. Let's do it again and identify the impact, prove that it didn't come from somebody else, and do it again. I think that's that's the whole beauty of the game that we're in. There's this is a little bit off topic. There's entrepreneurs and there's intrapreneurs. Right now, instead of big companies, being an intrapreneur, I couldn't think of a better time. Like you could use the resources of a big company, eBay, when we were there 10 years ago, and really get scrappy and do things that are fast, quick, and use the weight of an eBay to capitalize on that more. But I just think right now, as an entrepreneur, best time. You can hack some stuff together, you can get mentioned and get featured on ChatGPT. As an entrepreneur at a big company, best time. You can use eBay stuff, you can use the big company stuff to get in front of the game. I just think it's a really good time and an exciting time to be trying new stuff with measurement, being really clear on this is what I think this will do. In 6 months, if there's no impact on direct traffic or brand, move on to the next thing. And SEO is a different timeline than paid. It's much faster, which is why it's a little bit more addictive and more exciting, more fast movement from a budget perspective. But starts with reporting.
I do agree. I do think it starts with reporting, because reporting is your paper trail to the customer or to the prospect or whatever who you're trying to reach, your audience. And so you have to start with some indication of what you're trying to achieve, right? But the beauty of that, of where we are today, I think the excitement that I see right now is that SEOs, content marketers, paid marketers, web developers, they can build proof of concepts now faster than ever before. What used to take tons of time takes minutes now. I mean, I have seen some amazing things. I've literally seen web developers create whole websites for customers in like seconds, and then send them as proof of concepts to engage them to redevelop and redesign their whole web experience. And it doesn't take weeks to months. You're literally doing it for them. You're prototyping it for them without even pitching them, without even talking to their teams, without doing anything. You're just doing it proactively. And I actually think that's what's missing right now in the market is we as SEOs have often been the individuals that kind of sit back and do a lot of analysis, do a lot of research, do a lot of discovery, but like we have tools now that nobody else has, and we can actually prototype what we want to build to create collaboration, So we can prototype something that would historically be a very SEO type thing, but can partner with the search team or the social team. We can prototype something that used to work really well for the paid team to convert customers, and then make it useful for SEO and prototype it and create a concept that then executives and leaders and other decision makers can help buy into, right? Or clients, if you're in an agency, like, hey, here's a real prototype of what's worked for your paid team, but this is what works for SEO. And we can do that so much faster. You can, as they like to call, vibe code that out in seconds versus having to have a technical expert to help us do it, or a content expert to help us do it, or have a design expert to help us do that. You can do all these things through prompting. And I think that's the beauty of where we are as an industry. It actually enables us to have a lot more leverage to collaborate, because you can build something that proves value to your partner team without doing any real technical work, depth of content knowledge, or some sort of design or creative skill. I'm not a creative person, okay? I can't design shit. Like, I'm seriously, like, unfortunately, there are many people on this planet who are colorblind. I'm sure there's at least one person in this room that's colorblind. You should have traded with me, because I don't need to see color, all right? I'm not good with it. I don't deal well with it. It wasn't meant for me, all right? The brain doesn't wire on to those kinds of creative talents. And the reality is that with AI, I can literally build really creative stuff. It looks pretty good.
Anyone can.
Anyone can.
No, but that's the problem.
For me, it even looks good.
Yes, but I think in the paid world, we always say, you created this ad, it looks great, what did it do? What was the impact of that? Which I think is valid. Everyone can create stuff now. It looks great, you can create the prototype, but it needs to drive value. And if it's not going to drive value, you're not going to make anything happen.
Agreed.
It's going to be a short-term thing for everyone. And even going back to the big question, I can't stress it enough, but just try to find places to win. Even if there are specific keywords or specific search terms on page, as it is now, that are unprofitable. Maybe those are good places to start. Good places to build content to get the traffic for free. Like, how do we complement each other instead of fighting battle every single time? Because, like, especially when you're at a company and you're working with an SEO agency and you're working with a paid agency, they don't want that either. The client wants you guys working on the same team and working on the same team and growing the business and not arguing about, like, was it this or was it that? And I think that's something that we've been talking about for 15 years since I started in marketing, and has not made much progress.
Yeah, the problem is data's crap right now. That makes it really hard.
No doubt.
Okay, any closing remarks, conversations with you, anything like that, sort of thing with data's crap?
Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of hope. Clean your data, work with partners, work with experts, and I really think this is a game about speed, intellectual curiosity, and technical expertise. We've seen platforms come before. We've seen it's nothing crazy new. It's just how we adapt to it as a group and move fast. Like, that's like the people that move fast and test with rigor and clear testing plans and smart strategies are going to be the ones that come out on top and focus value.
Once in a while.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple things. I mean, there's been a lot of data changes in our industry, in the SEO space specifically. Obviously, the N100, Google kind of removing a lot of the data from third-party tools in terms of honestly rankings that really didn't matter. So thank you, Google, for cleaning up your own garbage. There's that, but then there's also a lot of other changes that are happening in our industry when it comes to tracking, and arguably I think this cookieless world is very challenging, because the SEO team is often a very small team and doesn't have a lot of leverage to argue for where did my traffic go, and if my traffic just all of a sudden goes to direct, or if my traffic all of a sudden goes to unknown, it's a very challenging argument that we're all facing. And my one piece of advice on this is fight for what's yours, because organic is real, And organic is something that we are often misaligning and bolstering other efforts across the company, whether it be brand, whether it be paid, whether it be other channels. No offense, Jerry.
I'm gonna back
but
I'm gonna back you. Go ahead.
like we gotta fight for our shit. And like that's something that we gotta do for like the next couple of years, because tracking and data right now is just hot trash, and it's not gonna change anytime soon. It's only gonna become more and more complex. So the reality is, I'm talking to SEO teams right now who are fighting with executives to add in LLM traffic as SEO. This is my goal, because we're coming to the end of the year here, right? What's my 2026 goal for SEO? Bet your ass it's ChatGPT, because I contribute more to ChatGPT than any other department. So I'm taking credit for that. Like, that's a real conversation. That's like a real thing that we should all be like having debate about within our agencies, within our teams, within our own little small business that we manage. Like, that is not a segment that is not organic. It is organic.
Yeah, what was the question?
That's how we start.
Yeah.
Any final remarks?
Do we want audience questions or no audience questions? Sure. I mean, time.
Just get scrappy.
Sure.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
You don't have to.
When you're saying that you contribute to ChatGPT, I'm coming from a different perspective here, but are you saying that you're writing content that ChatGPT is suggesting, and then somebody else goes to ChatGPT and asks a question and finds your content, and then they're driven to your site, and so you've got organic traffic? Is that what you're saying?
Bingo. Yeah. I mean, it's, one of the challenges that we're facing as digital marketers, paid as well, because this is coming, right? Like, there's going to be a paid component to LLMs, right? Whether it be ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, all of them are going to have a paid plan. And we can talk about what that looks like if people are interested. But the reality is that many of the foundational capabilities that we all have to do great SEO, build good user experience, build good content, build good navigation, taxonomy, and internal linking, build useful flows for customers, good UX. Like, all of these concepts are critical for LLMs to process and understand stuff. One of my favorite things about using ChatGPT or Gemini is that it actually doesn't just send me to a web page like Google often does. It actually brings me to the real source within the web page. So if there's a table that shows me the average price of a house in a state, it doesn't bring me to the top of the article. It brings me right to the table that shows me that specific state, and I can look at the table of the average prices of houses based on square footage or based on number of bedrooms or whatever, however they broke down the data. And that to me is like a huge utility. It's like a huge value add. And I'd rather use ChatGPT to do that. My favorite example to use of like ChatGPT being more of a utility is recipes. Everybody here, whether you're a terrible cook or a good cook, has looked up a recipe. Doesn't matter what kind of cook you are. This is not a judgment on your cooking skills. But if you've looked up a recipe on Google, what you get bombarded with is a shit ton of ads first, then grandma's story of how this is the most historical recipe ever. And somewhere buried 70 clicks down, you actually get the list of the shit you have to buy at Trader Joe's. And like, all I want is the list. Just give me the damn list. I'm at the store right now, my kid's screaming at me. Like, I just need a list of things to buy. If you go into ChatGPT and you type in, I need a recipe to potato leek soup, it gives you a list of shit to buy at Trader Joe's. It's not hard. And like, that is a high utility, high value outcome. Now, there's not a lot of clicks on that.
Right.
But the reality is that there's probably a world in the next 6 to 12 months where there's going to be somebody who truly knows food and recipes that influences ChatGPT to make them a choice to click on. Because today, there is no click because nobody actually creates a good recipe experience. I mean,
There's no
Recipes were just all on
There's no
the Amazon
incentive.
ChatGPT thing too, or Walmart ChatGPT. Walmart took recipes out of the ChatGPT with OpenAI this week. So Walmart and OpenAI signed a deal this week. Recipes are not a part of it because people are going to be constantly reordering all the time. So ChatGPT doesn't want to give up Microsoft doesn't want to give up the margin for that type of search because people are going to be coming back every single couple of weeks to do that anyways. So.
Other questions? Andrew?
Jordan, you said something interesting when you were talking about the whole sort of economy that came as Google's ad product was growing. SEMrush and all of that came from that. Us able to make smart decisions from that data available there. It feels like we're kind of anticipating for that moment to come with ChatGPT or any of these LLMs. We just don't have the data to be making smart business decisions. So with that, like feeling like I'm in a holding pattern as those platforms are volatile and there's no strong data to make the good business decisions. How are you thinking about long-term planning when it does feel like we're kind of in a waiting period when it comes to that?
That's a really good question, and I think this is where like AI does benefit us because we can actually build better reporting infrastructure on our own as marketers. We can build our own stuff. We don't need to wait for some business analytics team or some data science team to tell us stuff. We can go and build our own stack, right? And if we're in-house or an agency, we should be thinking about how to build real utility within the data sets that we have. So how can we go build our own server log analysis that helps us understand what is happening with LLM traffic? Because that's happening right now. There's actually a whole set of businesses that are being built behind just looking at your own server log data to understand how LLM traffic is being utilized on your site to then give you real content recommendations to improve your site. That's actually a real utility. That's a real impact. Like you're looking at your own data. And then like the whole example before of like looking at your LLM traffic, what are the things that users are looking at the most, and then going and building it, right? But the beauty of the situation that we're in right now is we don't have to wait for someone else to give us that. We don't have to wait to have some biz analytics team in-house or externally having someone build a technology to do that. We can build the technology ourselves. So I fundamentally think that we have to empower ourselves at this particular moment because there aren't going to be these utility tools that give us mass aggregated data. The beauty of those tools is that it was aggregated at scale, and so we could make some implied decisions that helped us move faster. But today we have to really we have to eat our own dog food more often, and I think that's where we need to start. But we have to start with segmentation of where the data is coming from. Server log data. There's also engagement data on sites that we may want to look at. There is one of the things that I think is super powerful right now is companies who can really segment your LLM traffic to the type of utility. So here's what I mean by that. LLM traffic is actually kind of weird. It's not like SEO or paid search traffic. Because in SEO and paid search traffic, the user has been trained to expect to perform some sort of outcome. But with LLM traffic, a huge portion of that traffic is coming to perform a generative task. So one of our clients is a huge office space software company. So they do this planning logistics for offices. You go in, you punch in your information, and then you can sign up to go into the office. You can your employees can schedule to book a conference room. They build that kind of technology, right? And one of the craziest things about how they get LLM traffic is that the LLM traffic that often comes to their site are other facility managers at big companies trying to use their content to learn. They're not buying their stuff. They're just trying to go build their own damn thing. And so this is why you hear a lot of CEOs of these big tech companies saying don't train off of my data. But there's a balance there of like, what kind of traffic is it? Are these people coming to buy, or are these people coming to learn? And that's something that is changing in our economy of organic. Sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
No, it just boils back on the business outcomes. Like what you're actually debating the strategy on. Like you're gonna build your own strategy and you see back into real, said a million times, business outcomes that the executives and the customers could resonate with. If you don't back into those metrics, the strategy's not gonna work well.
Hey, Jerry, speaking about data, don't you guys track data or do something or other with data? What do you guys do over there, your thing with data?
Onward cleans data for our clients. So we full end-to-end data management service from the unification, the ingestion of the data, to the cleaning of the data, the orchestration, the architecture of the data warehouse, the big query tables, and the dashboards of visualization. So if clients want to ingest another data source to track LLM, Ahrefs, anything like that, we can do that. But it's only as valuable as you can connect it to the real business outcomes, which is why what Onward does is we connect all of the sources and get to profit. So if we can try to get to an understanding of is your LLM traveling over time actually converting into a business outcome that means something to the business versus just mentioning it as XYZ. So yes, that's what we do.
Great, thanks.
All right, thank you for sharing your expertise today. The churros are on the bar.
Oh.
Because the side during the talk, so you can go ahead, grab dessert, grab some more food, and